to hold up its end of the bargain regarding the Iran nuclear deal. The president yesterday tweeted that Iran has boosted its military budget by more than 40% since signing the deal, which he says is an indication the country never intended to curb its nuclear ambitions. The president withdrew from the 2015 agreement last week, but says that he wants to make a new and improved deal that will benefit both sides. Meanwhile, the decision is sparking outrage in Iran, with one official saying that the country will prepare for industrial-scale production of nuclear fuel now. Joining me right now is the House Homeland Security Chairman, Mccaul. He is also a member of the House Foreign Affairs Committee. And, Mr. Chairman, it's good to have you on the program this morning.
Thank you, Maria.
Thank you so much for joining us. Your reaction to the president pulling out, and also what we could see as retaliation from Iran. Should we be worried?
If I could first say Happy Mother's Day to my 90-year-old mother.
Ah, beautiful.
And my wife, mother of 5 beautiful kids. And so, no, this is a very intense time. I think the president made a very bold foreign policy move here. The deal with John Kerry was flawed from the beginning. It did not deal with inspections, particularly at military sites, ballistic missile capability, and sunset provisions, so it essentially guaranteed a nuclear Iran. These are the 3 issues that the president tried to negotiate with France, Germany, and Britain. I think France came along when Macron spoke at the State of the Union, and then I think the Brits were with us. This deal, by pulling out, puts maximum pressure on Iran, but also Europe, within the 90 to 180-day time frame window to cut that deal so we have a better deal to ensure that we never have a nuclear Iran ever. The whole point of these sanctions by Congress was to get to the point where we would ensure they would never have nuclear weapons capability.
And you know, Dick Cheney told me as well that the Iranians have increased their military budget by 40%. This is what the president has tweeted out this morning, basically saying, look what they've done with the money. We've already given them all this money. Are you expecting any retaliation, anything that we should be worried about in the homeland, given that they're not happy? They're chanting death to America.
Death to America, death to Israel. $150 billion lifted by the sanctions, 40% ramping up their military. When I was in Israel with Prime Minister Netanyahu, he talked about the Shia crescent of Iran going into Iraq, Syria, Lebanon. We know they fired missiles into the Golan Heights, a very intense situation. I do anticipate there'll probably be some sort of retaliation by Iran. Also in the cyberspace. We saw this after the sanctions in 2011, major cyber attacks on the financial sector. But again, I think the president is doing something very unconventional and bold that at the end of the day, just like what's happening with North Korea, could produce very positive results.
Yeah, connect the dots. Do North Korea and Iran work together on nuclear ambitions? This is pretty significant, what has taken place in terms of North Korea. And the president was able to put the pressure campaign even on China to get involved and help North Korea come to the table.
I think it was a great act of diplomacy by Mike Pompeo, who's a good friend of mine. We traveled overseas quite a bit. You know, A.Q. Khan out of Pakistan proliferated to Iran, and then North Korea and Iran exchange technology. So, I mean, that's a pure fact. And I think, you know, the fact is these prisoners came home from North Korea after maximum pressure was applied, as you mentioned, by China as well. We didn't see that happen when the Obama administration was trying to negotiate with Iran. In fact, I introduced a bill last week to provide sanctions on Iran because they still have 5 American hostages that have never been released.
Wow. And we know that the last time we saw any hostages coming home, there was an exchange of money.
Yeah, cash on airplanes.
To Iran, exactly. Yeah. So what should we think about the Europeans right now? Will they follow, during this 180-day period, people and companies and countries have to decide, well, I'll either do business with the United States or with Iran?
I think that is the fundamental choice. Do I do business with the United States or Iran? They're going to pick the United States. That's why we have the ultimate leverage on Iran.
So you think the Europeans change course? You think, for example, Macron, Angela Merkel say we have to pull out of this deal as well? I mean, will we see new information coming out of this?
I think Macron was willing to negotiate on those 3 points, again, being inspections. Remember, we can't inspect their military sites. Where else are they going to build their nuclear capability, right? The ICBM, ballistic missile capability, and then the sunset, which means we're guaranteeing a nuclear Iran. So we have to get those three issues resolved. I think what the president's done as a good deal maker has put maximum pressure now on Europe and Iran to get this done so we get a better deal. This is not a good deal that was negotiated by John Kerry and President Obama.
Yeah, meanwhile, John Kerry is running around trying to salvage this deal somehow in the last month, which was incredible. Let me move on to immigration, Mr. Chairman, because a lot of frustration, obviously, on the part of the president recently, that we're not clamping down even more. What can Congress do? Apparently, there was a meeting last week where the president was upset with his Homeland Security Secretary, Kirstjen Nielsen. Were you at that meeting?
No, I was not. That was a cabinet meeting. I've heard about the meeting. And quite honestly, I see the frustration on both the president and secretary's part. This is really Congress's role to act. Congress has the authority under the Constitution. I have a border security bill that will secure the border. We have to close the legal loopholes. So when that caravan comes in that we saw, we can't just detain them and let them go. Catch and release.
Catch and release, exactly.
We have to deport them.
So, because what stops anybody from taking another caravan and just bringing hundreds of people right in, knowing that we have to catch and release?
Yeah. If you have a criminal come in your house and break in, and yet you can't arrest them or deport them. Absolutely insane. The American people don't understand this.
Realistically, can Congress change this over the near term?
I think if we have my border security bill, a slim version of Interior that really focuses on closing legal loopholes, and that being, asylum, changing a 2008 law that allows them to stay in the country, change those two things, and then deal with the DACA issue. But, Marie, it's paramount we do this soon, because the longer we wait, the longer, if we go into July, we have to get it done by July, because after that, it's all about campaign. I worry that the Democrats would prefer to make DACA a campaign issue and not a legitimate policy issue.
Yeah, you're right. And it feels like that's where they're going with this, by the way. Take it all the way to the midterms. Before you go, any thoughts on NAFTA and whether or not we are going to see a deal sooner rather than later? The president apparently has put in a soft deadline of May 18th or May 19th to try to get a deal done so that Congress can deal with it before the Mexican elections. And then, of course, you've got the midterm elections.
Well, I've always advocated, I chair the U.S.-Mexico congressional delegations, that we have to fix it and update it, not scrap it. My home state of Texas, Mexico is our largest trading partner. So this is economics for us. And I think the administration is getting there to modernize the agreement, bring energy under the umbrella, and also the country of origin principles that are so important. But I'm optimistic. I believe we have to do this. I think to scrap NAFTA altogether would be a serious mistake.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why is it even realistic to think we could have something on the table this upcoming week? I mean, this is the soft deadline he put in place.
Well, I know Lightenberger, he's been dealing with this, or Lightenhouse. I think they're getting close.
Okay.
And I know Congress will be taking a look at it. We've been urging them, again, not to kill it, but to make it better and modernize it.
Right, sure. And of course, Texas is right there with the Mexico trade. Let me ask you your thoughts on what took place this morning, overnight in Paris, another terrorist attack. Obviously, porous borders there. What's your take on this, and how do you stop something like that in America?
They're in a far worse position than the United States. They have so many more foreign fighters from the battlefield in Europe. They have neighborhoods in Paris. Before the Paris-Brussels attacks, we warned them about these enclaves of radicalized Muslims that they can't do anything about. I would argue the United States is very different. I've been with the NYPD pretty much all weekend talking about this.
Oh, really?
Sheikh Adnani, the ISIS spokesman, says kill wherever you are by any means necessary. And this is what they're sort of relegated to, are these knife attacks, vehicle assaults. They've been a bit demoralized since the collapse of the caliphate. Aviation sector is still a concern of mine. But with this particular attack, you're going to see more and more of this. You'll probably see it in the United States, but it's not along the lines of a 9/11 style attack.
It's pretty incredible how vulnerable Paris has been, really. Mr. Chairman, it's always a pleasure to see you.
Thanks, Maria.
Thank you so much. Chairman Michael Mccaul joining us there. Up next, former Vice President Dick Cheney sits down for an exclusive interview with me, what he had to say on a wide range of issues, including our biggest foreign policy threat and what America's role should be in the Middle East. Follow me on Twitter, @Maria Bartiromo, @Sunday Futures. Let us know what you'd like to hear for the rest of the program as we continue right here on Sunday Morning Futures.